Hey everyone, how you doing today? It is me, David, coming to you from my whiskey den here in central Ohio. It's round at the ends, high in the middle, Ohio. And I'm in the middle of it. A question I get asked questions from folks, usually friends or people who leave questions in the comments of the videos on my channel. What are certain things? Like something I get a lot is, hey, is bourbon whiskey? Um, is Scotch whiskey? Is Irish whiskey whiskey? Is Tennessee whiskey whiskey? I don't know. But something that's I'm gonna try and clear up, maybe a question or misconception, maybe some of you have, um, is what's the difference between bourbon and Tennessee whiskey? Even some bourbon and whiskey reviewers I see here on YouTube don't quite get it either. Don't differentiate. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between Tennessee whiskey and bourbon. And what I have here, I've got these up here specifically for a reason. These are 3 bourbons, 3 Tennessee whiskeys. All 6 of them are produced in Tennessee. So here we go. I went to the interweb, got some info. So first thing, bourbon and Tennessee whiskey are whiskeys. They are related. They're almost exactly the same. There's one big difference. But first off, bourbon, just basically bourbon and Tennessee whiskey, needs to be made up of what's called a mash bill or a recipe. So you got mash, which is the grains involved, and those grains are mashed and fermented, mixed together, kind of made like a beer, and then they're distilled into a clear liquid, which is then they barrel that and age it, and then you drink it. So the mash bill for it, all these bourbon and Tennessee whiskey, 51% corn. The rest of the other 49% can be wheat, it can be rye, it can be malted barley, or a combination, usually of 2 other grains, 51% corn, and it may be, 25%. Well, actually, it has to be at least 51. So it could be 75% corn, and then 15% rye, and then 10% malted barley. Do the math. So, and I'm not going to get into mash bills here on these. The big difference between Tennessee whiskey and bourbon is that Tennessee whiskey, before it is barreled, let me do this, process must be done. Okay, so after distillation and prior to put in the barrel, it needs to go through what's called the Lincoln County process of charcoal filtration. I do know, I think it's Jack Daniel's, which is probably the most iconic Tennessee whiskey that there is, goes through a sugar maple charcoal filtration, and that's done before it hits the barrel. Other bourbons, or their whiskey, well, bourbon can be charcoal filtered, but that's usually done after it has been aged in the barrel. Tennessee whiskey and bourbon need to be aged in the barrel for a minimum of 2 years to be considered legally that particular spirit. Bottled in bond is done under government supervision, 4-year minimum aging. And there you go. I think that's basically, and they have to be in new charred oak barrels. So new barrels, they can't reuse, like barrels like from what they already aged something in. The only time you will see, like let's say finished in port barrels or rye barrels or some other sort of barrels is when after it's been done with that initial aging, then they might take that bourbon, or Tennessee whiskey and throw it into another barrel to finish off, maybe for 6 months, just so it picks up the flavors of those. Now, we have, like I said, Jack Daniels is probably the iconic Tennessee whiskey. It's done, these three are done using that Lincoln County process. This is Nelson's Greenbrier Tennessee whiskey, Jack Daniels, and George Dickel Tan Label 12 recipe. The other thing is that is why I brought these three up, is that Tennessee whiskey can only be produced in Tennessee. So let's say you had, let's say Jim Beam, for example, a Jim Beam distillery wanted to make a version of this themselves and went through that Lincoln County process and everything and had an identical spirit to Tennessee whiskey. They cannot call it Tennessee whiskey because they don't, unless they did it in Tennessee, but they don't. They do their stuff in Kentucky. So there you go with that. These three are bourbons. So they were made in Tennessee, but they did not go through the Lincoln County process. Therefore, cannot be called Tennessee whiskey. Though technically, it's whiskey made in Tennessee. And for this, another question. Now, there is a channel, kind of a relatively new channel out there, the Bourbon Beginner. And I'll try to remember to provide a link in the description so you can check out his channel, because we all begin somewhere in our bourbon journey and what we appreciate in our drinking or our hobby. And it's interesting because, like, his channel, the Bourbon Beginner, so he's kind of like beginning and really finding out a lot of this stuff on his own, and it's really interesting to watch his videos. So please check him out as well. You don't need to tell him I sent you because, I'm really nothing. Now, so getting back to my buddy, the Bourbon Beginner, he asked what the difference in taste is. So with that filtration, added filtration before distillation, they're basically making it like into a new, like a modification of that white dog they call, because it's clear when it, like this. Here's from Buffalo Trace. There, I got a bottle of their white dog. That's what it looks like before it goes into the barrel. So and I'm using George Dickel bourbon and the 12-year, same mash bill. This is aged for 8 years. I'm not sure how long the Superior 12 is aged for. So, it doesn't really matter. It's not 12 years. Combination of barrels. So, but it's identical stuff. It's same proof, 90 proof. And so let's just see how it tastes. Wow. I was not a fan of the Dickel bourbon at first, but once it's gotten to about this level in the bottle, it's got that spice. It's sweet up front. It's got that burn. It's something that you would, if you're a bourbon drinker, say, yeah, that's a good quality bourbon. It tastes kind of like raw in a way, if that's the best way. It's got that burn. It's got that bite. It's hard. It has a bit of that harshness. Sweetness. The flavors kind of stand out a little bit, kind of getting like a caramel popcorn, a little butter on it. But now if we compare it to the Tennessee whiskey version from George Dickel, what do we get? Yeah, that charcoal filtration gives it a smoothness, a really nice caramelly smoothness, more mellow. Really nice, not as harsh of a burn on the throat at the end of it. This is, you sit down with a nice pour of this, and it's good to sip on. This is something you have with, I use this analogy quite a bit. You have your steak dinner, and you're having a bourbon, a really nice bourbon with your steak. It really complements your dinner. I can just imagine having like a ribeye with baked potato and some salad or cream spinach and horseradish sauce, and that's the compliment. With the Tennessee whiskey, it's kind of like, okay, have my dinner. I want to finish off a little bit. Maybe not really have dessert or anything, but let me just finish off something nice, a little bit more mellow, just to enjoy the rest of the evening. And that's your Tennessee whiskey. That's also like you're sitting on your front porch in your rocking chair, and just enjoying life. And that's the sensation that you get from the Tennessee whiskey. Not that you can't do that with bourbon, but this is a lot more mellow in flavor. And the beauty of it is, between bourbons and Tennessee whiskeys, you do get different flavor profiles depending on age and the mash bill, etc., etc., etc. So I hope that answers some questions and curiosities about the differences and similarities between bourbon and Tennessee whiskey. So there you are. My recommendations for good Tennessee whiskey are any one of these. Even Jack Daniels, $25. It's smooth, it's mellow. And believe it or not, I was at a friend's house the other night, and I tried, the Jack Daniels Bonded, which I like a good 100 proof, but then it had a bit of a harshness on it. But then I had a little bit of the Jack Daniels 80 proof, and that was just so nice and mellow and smooth. And that's what you get with the Tennessee whiskey, is that added layer of smoothness. So there you are. We'll leave it there. I hope I didn't ramble too much. So until next time, it's me, David, coming to you from my whiskey den here in Central Ohio. I hope your next pour is your best pour. We'll catch you soon. Thanks so much for watching. Hey everyone, if you like what you see, please like and subscribe so you can be notified of future videos as they drop. Thanks for watching.